cheesecake and pumpkin pie had a baby, this is what it would be. I'm super excited to share this recipe with you. I don't know about you, but in the wintertime, I get this strong urge and desire to just bake some yummy things in the kitchen. And so this was something that I just actually made up on a random day that I wanted to experiment for Thanksgiving. And I ended up successfully bringing this to Thanksgiving, and it was a hit. It's so easy. All we're going to do is going to make a basic cheesecake, and so we're going to double the original recipe so we're going to use 4 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. Just put it in a bowl, and you want that to be nice and softened before we mix it up. So if you have not already put it on the counter to warm up a little bit, just set it aside and come back to it in a little bit. And then we're going to take 2 full sticks of butter, and we're going to just slowly melt that in a pan. Now we're gonna make a graham cracker crust here, and it sounds like a lot of butter, and it is. Your crust is going to be a little bit oily, but you want it that way because you want it to be a really nice, tight, sticky crust so that it stays together for bars. These are a cheesecake pumpkin bar. It is seriously, it's going to be so good. You're going to love it. You're going to want 2 full sleeves of graham crackers here. That's about 9 to 10 graham crackers. And I'm just putting it in a bag to crush them because you want them in really tiny, fine bits like sand. If you have a like a food processor or a blender, you can absolutely do it that way. I'm just doing it old school style here, and I'm going to crush them up. I just whack it on the table a few times, and then I take my little mallet here. I think it's called a meat. Is that a meat mallet? I think that's a meat mallet. I use my hands a little bit, and then I just use that little pounder, and I just get it really nice and fine. And this is going to be the base of our crust. So if you've never made a homemade graham cracker crust before, you really want the pieces to be really fine because otherwise they're not going to stick together very well, and you're not going to have really cohesive pieces. So really make that a point if you're doing it this way. If you put it in a food processor, it's going to make it really fine, no problem. So after we get that all crushed up, you're going to put it in a bowl, and then we're going to take the butter that we just melted on the stove, and we're actually going to add that to the graham cracker crumbles. So we're going to add the butter in there, and then I will actually add in a little bit of salt. Now, the nice thing about adding salt to anything sweet is that it really kind of cuts that sweetness, and it kind of brings out and highlights the flavors that are in the recipe. So we'll add a little bit of salt to this. I don't have an exact measurement. I just do a couple grinds of freshly ground salt. And my little helper here, she loves to help in the kitchen. So I'm going to give her a spoon and let her just help stir in this butter and the salt. And then I'm also going to add in a little bit of powdered sugar. Now, you don't need to put powdered sugar in this crust, but I do think that it just kind of brings out the flavor a little bit more of those grams. And you don't need a lot, maybe a 1/4 cup for all of this crust. So, and I'm just going to sprinkle it in. I'm not awesome at measuring things sometimes, so I'm giving you pretty approximate estimations here, but I can guarantee that you can fluctuate a little bit on that and you're going to have a great result, no problem. So all I want her to do is blend these together, mix them together a little bit without flinging it all over the counter. She does a pretty good job. I'm going to switch her spoon here because I think she does better with like a flat spoon like that. But anyways, I'm going to add in the butter. Remember, this is 2 full sticks, and it's going to be a little bit of a greasy crust. And like I said, I want this crust to be really cohesive and stick together, and this extra butter really allows for that to happen. So mix it all up. You really do want it to be like melted when you do this so that you can get every little morsel fully saturated with it, because it's going to press into your pan much easier. So we're going to make this in a 9 by 13 dish. You can use, I have a glass pan here. You can definitely use whatever you have available. I am going to spray it just lightly with cooking spray, and then I'm going to actually line it with parchment. I wasn't sure if I wanted to line it with parchment or not, but I wanted to have the option in case I wanted to pull the whole parchment out to slice it. I didn't end up needing to do that, but it did keep all the pieces really nice and tight together. In case I had any crumbly bits, I could easily tend to that. So what I do to get it to fit in the corners, and as I just slice it down the corner and then I overlap the edges. I'll do that to all the corners and then I'll go around and just cut off the excess. And that creates a nice corner so that you don't have any strange creases in the edges of your cheesecake. Now you're going to pour all of your crumbly, delicious crust right into this pan here. I did add a little bit more cooking spray to the top of the parchment. I don't think that's necessary considering the amount of butter that we put in here, but you're going to spread it out. I actually prefer to use my hand. I feel like hands I go back to old school ways when it comes to stuff like this. Your hands are going to give you the best feel for how everything is pressed together. It's going to give you the best feel for like evenness. You want it nice and even across the bottom. You're not going up the sides of this pan, just the bottom. Now this little lady here, she always likes to get in the mix. So I'm grabbing a home canned pumpkin that I canned actually last winter off my shelf. You do not have to use home canned for this. I will show you that in just a minute, how I measure that out. But we're going to take, now that your cream cheese is softened, we are going to take the hand mixer to it. You really want to use a hand mixer for this because you want it to be super duper smooth. But if you don't have a hand mixer, or if you want to use a standing mixer, that's great too. You just want it really super smooth. And so if it's really cold, if it's cold at all, you're really gonna have to work at it to get it nice and smooth, because you don't want any little bits of white chunks or anything like that in this. So now, once the cream cheese is fully like softened, mixed up, we're gonna add in our sugar. We're gonna do just 1 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. This is a pure cane sugar. And we're going to add in just a few dollops of sour cream. The sour cream ends up to be about like maybe a 1/4 cup total. And then a few drizzles of vanilla, which is probably about 2 teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon in the whole thing. So, and again, this isn't precise measuring, but you have flexibility here. You can absolutely experiment a little bit. You can eliminate the sour cream if you don't want it, but I do think that the sour cream adds a little bit more depth of flavor to the cheesecake. And so now we're going to mix all that up. We're going to wait to put the eggs in. It's really important to do the order of ingredients here first. So you don't want to incorporate the eggs too early, because if you beat too much air into the eggs, it becomes more mousse-like and less cheesecake. And we don't want a mousse-like texture, which is totally fine if you do, but we're looking for cheesecake here. So do 1 egg at a time. It's going to start to turn this really nice, pretty golden yellow color. And these are farm fresh eggs from our chickens. Room temp eggs always blend best. A few of these actually just came from the coop, so they were a little cold. You can see that white stuck in there a little bit, no big deal. We are just going to, again, individually blend these in. And then once we get all 4 of the eggs blended in, we're going to stop blending. We don't want to blend it anymore. Again, we don't want to incorporate too much air into this recipe. We're literally just going to mix it all together. And then we're going to pour most of it into our pan. And I'll show you that here in just a second. We're going to be reserving some of this. We're going to reserve about 1 and maybe 1.5 cups of this batter off to the side. So once I pour in a nice layer on the crust here, we're not pre-baking this crust or anything. We're just going to pour this right on there, reserving that 1.5 cups because we need to make that top layer a pumpkin layer, and that is where we're going to incorporate the pumpkin into our cheesecake, and we're going to have those really beautiful layers that you saw in the opening clip of this video. So remember, you're going to kind of estimate a little bit here because I didn't measure exactly. I'm giving you estimations. You just want to get an idea for maybe an even layer. All right, so it's so nice and smooth and creamy. Definitely give it a taste if you are not weird about raw eggs, because this is seriously so good. It's just a dreamy concoction, and I absolutely love cheesecake. I actually had my niece tell me at Thanksgiving that she doesn't usually like cheesecake, and she loved this dessert. So what does that tell you? So see here, I put a nice layer over there, and then I reserved about 1.5 cups in this bowl. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my home canned pumpkin, which if you've never home canned pumpkin, it smells so good. Like, I'm going to pop this lid here, and I give it a little sniff here, and I wish I could share that with you because there's something about the canning process that brings out like the natural sweetness in the pumpkin, and it just smells so yummy. So anyways, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tear out my scale so that I'm not measuring the weight of the bowl that I'm using. And I'm going to scoop just the pumpkin chunks in here. I don't want a bunch of extra liquid. So if you don't have home canned pumpkin, no problem. Go grab yourself one of the 15-ounce cans of pumpkin puree from the store. They come in 15-ounce cans, and you want just the plain one, not the one that's pre-seasoned or anything like that. Just the plain pumpkin puree. Libby's has always been my favorite if you go that route. Now I'm a little bit shy of the 15 ounces, so I have about I think it's about 13.9 ounces here. And that's totally fine. I'm a little bit shy. I'm not going to open a whole nother jar just for that extra little bit. So we're going to roll with the 13.9, but if you have a whole can of 15 ounces, just use that whole can. I just want to make sure it's all smashed up, and then I add it right into the cream cheese filling mixture that we set aside. And then we're going to add in our spices. So if you have a pumpkin pie blend that you have pre-bought at the store, go ahead and use that here. I would estimate you're going to use probably maybe 2 teaspoons of that seasoning total. Maybe start with 1 teaspoon and then add another one if it's not strong enough. Definitely taste as you go. I'm all about tasting it to make sure that you have the right flavors and textures and everything involved here. If you don't have a pre-mixed blend, I'm individually adding cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, allspice, a little bit of ginger, and I think that's it. There might be something else in there. Maybe I added a tiny bit of cardamom. I'm not sure. I just love cardamom, so I usually add that to random things. So add in your your spices, and then we're going to mix it up. Now, this is also really important because I wanted to make sure that this layer also set really well. So I blended all that, and then I added 1 additional egg just to ensure that this top layer sets. I wasn't sure with the pumpkin puree if that would affect its ability to set with the eggs already incorporated in the first round of batter. So I just added 1 extra egg and it set up perfectly. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And so pour that right on top, and then just make sure it meets the corners. And then what I would do next is, again, kind of random because this was a on the fly, I'm gonna make this today. I sprinkled it with a little bit of cinnamon. And then I took a knife and I actually just kind of swirled it in as if I was making like a little marble design. And it actually was a really nice touch and turned out really pretty. I'm going to show you the close-up here in just a second. And it kind of looks like, it almost looks like a prairie design with like mountains in the background. And maybe that's just my weird imagination, but tell me what you think. What do you think this looks like? Doesn't it kind of look like a landscape scene? It has like little mountain ranges. I don't know. That's just me. Anyways, we're going to pop this into a preheated 350 degree oven. Again, you want that preheated, ready to go, 350 degrees. And you're going to bake it until it is just set in the center. The edges are going to puff up a little bit. That's totally normal. The center is going to stay nice and low. You just want the center to be just set. You don't want to overcook it. So you're going to have a slight jiggle in the center when you take it out, and it will set as it rests. Isn't this absolutely gorgeous? So I would say that baked for about 35 to 40 minutes. Everybody's oven is going to be a little bit different. Here's me slicing it and serving it on Thanksgiving. And again, I'm going to tell you, this one was a hit, and I will definitely be making this again. I highly, highly recommend this super easy recipe you can make in less than an hour from start to finish. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this inspired you to go make something absolutely delicious for your family. Enjoy. Have a wonderful, blessed day. I'll see you in the next one.